Hello, greetings and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Phil Rice YouTube channel. Always a pleasure to have you all. First of all, I want to say, welcome everybody. It's lovely to see you all here. I've got a couple of very cool people I'm going to bring on in a second, and we're going to talk about all things magic, hermetics, and whatever else. And please, if you if you have a question, drop it into the live chat, and we'll have a look at those a bit closer to the top of the hour. And as far as how you can support and connect with the guests and also this channel here, you can see the YouTube description below or the description below on Substack and see the details for connecting and supporting. And and if you like what's happening here on the Phil Rice YouTube channel and you'd like to sign up for an email subscription or join the upgrade service that I have as well, you can go to philrice.substack.com and do that. So thanks everyone. And so without further ado, I'll bring on the very cool, the very lovely Michael and Manuela from MMHermeticMastery.com. Hello everybody. How's everyone doing?
Hey, hello Phil. How are you?
I am so good, thank you, and so much better for seeing your lovely, bubbly, bright and bushy-eyed. Was it bright-eyed and bushy-tailed faces? That's probably not quite right, but it's great to see you guys. It's always great to see our counterparts in Australia, or people in Aussie, because you guys, there's always lots of sun and beaches and things, and you guys are always rocking a tan. So,
we had so much rain here, actually we didn't have too much sun, but
Oh really? How long have you been back? You guys have been back in Aussie for a little while, because I know you do a fair bit of travel.
Around, when was that? Around Christmas time?
We were up in Cairns, and then we did New Zealand as well. We did the South Island and sort of got caught up with the Elvish. All around through Queenstown and things, and then I go to WA, and we would travel a lot. You can go through a lot of different states and things, and we're always adjusting. As I was just saying about the time zones as well. I've already been in the beach, to the beach and in the water. Caught a few waves this morning, so I was pretty happy about that. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So it's churning up, from the intense storm weather, but it's good mixing it up in the water.
We've had it pretty wild here. I mean, I don't know if either of you been to Auckland. It's strange. It's like this funny little strip of land with two large bodies of water on either side, and so we get really weird weather here. Like it's full on 4 seasons in a day, and in that spring swap over, especially around the equinox when things start to change, it gets, one day it's freezing cold and windy, and the next day it's really warm and dead still, and it's quite bizarre. But it's definitely there's much change going on right now, and you can see that in geopolitical events, although I have to say it's been pretty busy for a while out there. So you guys, that's right, you guys went, both of you went to Queenstown. Man, I've been there once. I went there for a music teacher conference years ago, and first time I'd been there, and it was in the off season. That we could, outside my window was the Remarkables. I mean, maybe we already mentioned this in another video, but it's pretty amazing down there. And did you go to Castle Rock as well?
We were very much advised to go. We just ran out of time. I mean, there was also, we've had the Southern Lights. They hit last night again, and they're actually up here at Mullaney, near the Sunshine Coast, and they've got them in Perth and all over. Obviously, we've got them in NZ, and we were there having a look because we'll go further south, and it'll be great. We'll have a look at the Southern Aurora Borealis, and we didn't get to Castle Rock, but once again we had the Remarkables outside our windows, and get this dusting of snow and the water and the aircraft. There's so much energy, and one of Manuela's friends was there, and oh my gosh, plus. Yeah, we were right down towards the very bottom end. We sort of look out towards Stewart Island, and there's 4 seasons in a day for you down there too.
Wow,
so there's an insane amount of energy. We're just electrified. We're stopping fabulous tourists. We had a fantastic vehicle, and we went up to the Lothlorien, where they filmed the Lord of the Rings. We went to one of those places. Well, it's just the energy, obviously the dynamic that when they chose those places, there was quite a magical connection to the land, and you really connect back to that ancient powers. There's so many of these ancient buildings and structures they're finding now. You've got the Giant's Wall near you now, haven't you? They've rediscovered. They've been writing about that now.
Oh, do you mean the Kaimanawa Wall in
Yeah. Sorry, that's in North. Already jumping back up to the North Island now. Yeah, I didn't get to Castle Rock. We didn't. But you've got there's so many rock structures where you've been. Yeah.
There are some very unusual, somewhat monolithic and megalithic, and stones in New Zealand, stone sites, gatherings of stones that have unlikely kind of like directional positioning towards seasonal and astronomical kinds of alignments. And there's a great documentary on YouTube, because I've met a local social historian here who traveled New Zealand, and there was one chap, Hamish Miller, I think he's passed now, and it's called The Stone People of New Zealand or something like this. But basically it talks about this is really contentious in New Zealand, but they're talking basically about a race of redhead people that lived here even prior to Māori, and and they were positioned, the Waitaha, and basically he went round with his he was, what would you call it, geomancer, and he went and mapped these things, and he found that when he found one of these rocks, and he would follow around with his rods, I think he was using rods, he would trace these really interesting patterns, because he would basically get led around like one of those kinds of weird things. And so you got all these kind of strange radial sort of striation patterns that he mapped out around these sacred sites, and it turns out there's quite a lot of them in New Zealand, and they are uncannily positioned, like I said, to align with certain seasonal and astronomical, etc. Alignments. And even at Kaimanawa Wall, that's got a facing that is, I think it's north-south as well. And but yeah, the Kaimanawa Wall is something else. I went there. I was actually got to sit in the car with Bruce Lipton for about an hour and a half and have a chat to him.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I tell you what, there's some things I can't share, but the private combo with that. But really interesting to hear him and Gary Cook, who's one of our local social historians, talk about the history of the Kaimanawa Wall and how the type of rock that it is formed out of doesn't belong on that side of the lake, and that because Taupo is erupted twice, the water actually just about came right up to it, and that so there's all of these things. And even driving through the middle of the country, like past Rotorua and that, there's these giant silt, they call them silt cones, or they're conical mounds of silt from one of the eruptions, maybe Tarawera. And it's like, yeah, I mean, a whole bunch of something just happened to fall in one place and just build up into a silt cone. I don't know. There's all of these conical shaped sort of like piles in these fields as you drive through. And I'm like, man, I'd love to drill in and see if there's something else there, but maybe not. I don't know.
You might start to disappear, as it happens to a lot of people when they get too nosy, or when they know too much or say too much, or
Well, this is true, and we have a section of forest blocked off up north that no one's allowed to visit, and it's been sectioned off something like 65 years or something by the government.
Wow.
And but and the reasons for it's interesting to hear the reasons. But anyways, it's wonderful to have you here. I'm so pleased you guys were able to take some time out of your very busy schedule, because you guys have got heaps of classes and planning and traveling, and of course you've got your own lives and family and that too. So I'm very grateful. Thank you so much for coming on. And I just want to put it out to the crowd. We have a couple of very well experienced, well traveled practices and teachers here today. So please, everyone, if you've got any questions for Manuela and Michael, this is a great opportunity to take advantage of their wealth of experience and knowledge. So please throw your questions into the live chat. Now, guys, what's been happening? Is there anything you'd like to share, just to maybe kick things going? I try to keep tabs on what everyone's up to, but everyone's just so full on busy at the moment. And I know you guys have, you've got a couple of courses as well. So anyway, I'll just hand it over to you. Tell us what's been happening.
Yeah, we have been really busy with obviously putting up our online courses, so the pre-recorded courses, and then also we have more people asking for in person or like private one-on-ones. And so we are planning a trip to, I don't know if I can say Europe or around the world for next year. Because we just have so many people asking for more in-person workshops. And so it's just constantly evolving and growing. And also I just did last week sort of like a new moon energy healing. It's on the start page. I think you can see that. In person here, where I incorporate more of the shamanic energy as well, and that's more designed for really sort of like beginners who want to get into who want to get into their psychic abilities or experience energy. And then obviously we got all the other courses which are more based on the Hermetics side of things, but obviously there's always the healing incorporated as well. And really sort of like created a framework or like a journey for somebody when they start out to fill up their gaps, or sort of like really give them that solid foundation, that basic knowledge. And then obviously we got the big one next year in February, the Tree of Life.
We're kicking off the Tree of Life next year in February. And that's it's going to be a huge, it's like about 9 or 10 months online. And once again, Tree of Life, which is, I originally taught that in Chiang Mai in 2022 when we met, and it was a very inspirational journey because it goes through each of the planets plus all the constellations. It's basically mapping out a lot to do with the foundation. If you're going to do the tarot, the real, the 4 suits, the 4 elements, as well as, you get to connect to a lot of the Akashic and etheric energy. There's so much there that it's a very, very deep and rich course. I don't believe anyone else is doing it the way we're doing it. I did it when I was with Bill Cook Edwards back in the late 80s and early 90s, and now we put something together. It's very comprehensive. And also there are certain energies and planets that you can work with that are very inspirational and empowering with your elements. So we have requirements through other courses. We recommend, highly recommend people do the Initiation Hermetics 1, Initiation Hermetics 2, because you'll learn about the protection and the elements and that pre-requirements. Then you can really build these planetary and constellational star energies that can just, amp your just blow your sharks, basically, get your energy right really fast. And so, you can look at it because we bring in a lot of different philosophies, whether it be through, the Norse runes and, any of the different Eastern philosophies as well, because they all enhance. And that's the beauty about Hermetics. You can build on any systems that you already have in your philosophical or martial or holistic training programs, and Hermetics just amps it up, and it also builds a lot of bridges. That's what people want. They don't have to have these things as standalones. It doesn't rob any other system. It enhances it and brings in a balance to connect. People get so precious with, I'm a psychic, I'm a reader, I'm a tarot, or a scryer, I'll hang on to that. Whereas with this, we just run through it, There'll be certain stones and metals that you can, learn how to charge and vault things. It's phenomenal what we do. We've got separate courses where we can really, really build this. Plus also we dig deep into a lot of the ancient knowledge as well. We reveal some of the secret teachings that normally don't get touched upon. It's working with a lot of Franz Barden's work, but also a lot of the different ancient philosophies and cultures of Alice A. Bailey and the Golden Dawn and things like this, plus a lot of modern techniques that are very, very powerful.
It also sort of like almost goes, I don't know, a lot of people are sort of like condense Hermetics to certain teachers, like obviously Franz Barden's system, but obviously Michael has been doing this work for 38 years, so you get a lot more than just the knowledge from Franz Barden. So sort of like it extends it. Plus also, with my background, I've done a lot of the shamanic work and the healing work. I find a lot of people, they do all the energy work, but they haven't done much healing work. So there might be past contracts in place, or past lives or any entities there. They might not be able to even have like a proper protection around them because they just bring white light down. But yeah, it doesn't that work everywhere you go, so to say. So yeah, it's sort of like almost, yeah, sort of like meeting people where they're at, but also at, you have certain requirements that sort of like need to be met. Like people need to know already, they need to be able to feel their soul, they need to be able to feel their spirit already. They need to know the protection, how to clear a loom, how to cleanse their energy body. Ideally they've already been initiated into different spheres and realms, or either by a teacher or by a being that took them there. So it's not a base level course. It's, yeah, you should have some basis already, and that's why we have the other courses there, and we also offer them obviously in person. The next one is in January in Australia, and then there's probably one in June in Sardinia. So
Oh wow.
Yes, we're going to Sardinia, land of the giants, as well.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yes. One of the students who did the Tree of Life with us, he said, you've got to come over and teach here. So we have a lot of students coming in from different parts of Europe will be coming to that one. And it's sort of facing sort of the north end of Sardinia and, connecting sort of deep into the land of these ancient stone, let's say, archaeological sites. There's been a lot of legend of the giants and the Mediterranean gods of Greece, Rome, and Egypt as well. So there's a very strong connection to those sort of alignments.
You've brought up so many interesting things there. For one, what you guys are talking about, how you can use, just for example, if we just bring up, Franz Baden is getting a fair amount of spotlight at the moment because of the and it was highlighted by a video in Bob today, that he basically has compiled a lot of these disparate teachings into one manual. If we just talk about the first book of his, but obviously there are lots of complementary and supplementary if you make that your core thing, but obviously Hermetics extends far beyond the Baden corpus as well.
Yes.
But what you're talking about when you say that this system, this, if we just call it Hermetics, just to keep it sort of an easy identifier,
yes,
which is why I use it. I love it. It's a great word because it's somewhat familiar, and there are some connotations and maybe a bit of baggage that comes along with it because of other groups that have used it, but it's still a very functional word because it appeals, I think, maybe people who have gone down the route of studying Eastern philosophies, and they're trying to bring it back home, so to speak. And this gives a language frame and a language set that makes it very translatable to sort of people in Western countries at the street level. And that's one of the reasons I love it is because it's very, like as a Reiki teacher who's just got, well, I've got a stack of books and none of them make any damn sense, to be honest.
Perfect. Sound like you're overqualified with the Reiki.
Oh man, I know who my favorite authors are because they're the ones that have traveled and found the most original teachings they could before things started getting changed and that. Because there is a value in the system there, but as far as the if I just use the Baden initiation to Hermetics thing, it's helped me because I've studied a whole stack of different sort of teaching healing modalities, and a lot of Western ones because they for me they explain it quite well in a way I can understand. But I've been able to figure out about 95 to 97% of what's going on, why they are doing those techniques, what the fingers are pointing at the moon, how to understand them. Hermetics is like help me to understand why they're doing what they're doing and help kind of figure out the cause and effect chain that goes on in that. And to me, it's like I feel so much confident when I'm speaking to people about this because I can make sense of it. I'm not just sort of saying something that I've read or heard. I can convey understanding, and I just feel so blessed to have connected with people on this thing because it's really where it's at now. People are wanting more. They want to understand more. And this seems to be a really great framework. And like you said, it works great with whatever. It's a universal system of attainment that you can use to make sense of your existing system. So if your guru or your teacher or is struggling to make sense, something like this can help lead you towards understanding. So, and just on the Sardinia thing, that is really interesting because that place has started to sort of get on the map a bit too. I can't remember. It was a few years back, but I don't know whether it was. I think it was giants, not pyramids, because we know there's a lot of pyramids that don't get talked about in, say, China and in Europe.
Yes.
But what? Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear, a little bit about, why Sardinia and why, what was the choice behind that? Because that's interesting. I mean, there's lots of places you can visit. So,
well, there is obviously there's several reasons, and sort of as you said, there's a lot of sort of like the underground history. Let's call it that way. That's there, and I work, with deities, spiritual beings. So, it's an easy way to get direct knowledge or direct information. And there's just, you just have to start somewhere, I guess. So, we have been on the search, especially I have been sort of like more interested in, the pyramids in Australia, and we did a bit of research there and then got into some interesting territory where, people that I actually know disappeared, and that's where I was like, oh, okay, wow, that's a bit too close now. But every country has, a lot of rich history, and especially connecting to certain energies at a certain country, and seeing the portals, seeing the, galactic connections in that sense. What do you say?
Getting back to the actual word of Hermetics, it's Hermes, who's the god of communication, or the messenger of the gods. So it's like an angelic communication. It's a winged angel. So wherever you go, you're connecting to the land, but you're also under the stars. And every being, god, goddess, or any other, warrior, has all walked under the stars or the sun. So there's the planetary connection, but also the deeper, richer earth. And if you're in your real power of Hermetics, whether it's Barden's work or any other corpus, you will be connected, and the earth will start talking to you. Plus, you'll get the dreams, and obviously beings that are very, very interdimensional will start communicating. And, if you're in that clear way. But if you're in this space of doubt, it doesn't exist, blah, 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 then nothing's going to take place. And as you start to develop, the land's going to talk to you. The rocks will talk to you. If you're actually working with the earth element, seriously doing the energy work, you will get to understand the magnitude of what granite is, or what diamonds do, or emeralds, or rubies, and how they're used. And you'll be working on so many levels, it'll blow your mind. It really will. You go to places like Baalbek in Lebanon, there's a 1,200-ton stone lintel there, base of the temple for Jupiter. People that aren't going into these levels and they just write it off as, it's pourable concrete. Forget them. Don't worry about them. But when you're really tapping in, you're going to start accessing these levels and energies, and particularly when you start working, obviously, with the tree of life, the beings of these planetary realms, not just the soul of angelic beings and, the other deities. Some of the beings, particularly those outer planets, they are gargantuan. They're just massive. In the astral planes, we sort of come up to their ankles. They're like the giants before the giants before the giants. They're like the big titans and things along those lines. And these places, you don't just build this massive stone temple and just dedicate it to Jupiter by accident. The name Jupiter synonymous is Thor in Norse, it's guru in Hindu. These beings have been here, and it's obviously the language is, they all have these incredible teachers. It's like the word plays. For example, that particular star system has a very, very big connection to our own intervention in DNA. And it's the Pleiades. You can go anywhere in the world and every culture. You can go to South America, Africa, you go to China, you go to Germany, you go to Ireland. They've all got their own legends about the Pleiades, and it seriously connects to high vibrational energy. and the different stars within the Pleiades itself. And that just happens to be Taurus, that constellation, which is opposite Orion. So you're taking your Hermetics into the deeper, richer places, both in the earth, where these temples and where these places are, whether they've been ruins, that were once phenomenal cities. But when you start to astrally travel or even work with these different dimensions and planes, you'll go back in time, because the time isn't so relevant in the astral, it's inverted. So you can visit the places that might have been, this thriving crystalline city or citadel, or fortress, like an Olympus or, the Atlantis. You tap those realms and you can access them and you'll see them, because you're not subject, because you're mastering time, which is one of the keys of what alchemy is. You're becoming the connection to the immortals, as it were. That's the way. But it's a very, very subtle way, and it's just filled with Dante's Infernos, doubts, and it's not for most of the people. They'll stop in their practice because it's just they can't do the connection between the galactic and the earth and planes and the ancient time zones. And a lot of things in this world are quite inverted, and that takes a lot of guts for one's soul and spirit to move through that without the mental mind being jammed with all these other programs and things. So once you get into the zone that you're meant to be getting into, you'll access the right books, you'll go to the right places, you'll meet the right people, and they'll just share with you, 2 hours of, conversation, and it'll blow your mind. You're moving into these new dimensions. You think, oh, wow, my life's changed again. This is where I need to go. This is where I need to work. And your dreams become very, very real, which is lucid dreaming. And this is what we want our students, our practitioners to get to, and we've got really good development strategies and programs that we get them into, how to defend themselves, astrally, mentally, spiritually, practice, the like spheres of, invulnerability and, fire spheres and, liquid spheres where they can just regenerate their own health as well. It's all meant to be. It's just a lot of the DNA of the human, or the Adamic race has been cut, and it's not growing. So it needs to spiral out of those places where it's, stifled. Yeah. So going into certain places that's relevant to your soul or how many cycles you've been here, and connecting to certain systems, you'll get the downloads that is relevant to your unique life and approach to, where you want to go with this work. It's not just about learning a corpus of things. It's about really finding the deepest aspect of your own astral soul and spirit Akashic self.
And it's also, sort of like my part, apart from, the healing and the other stuff, is I really like to enhance people's psychic skills so they actually can feel, the spirits, the beings, see the energy, feel it in your body or hear it, communicate it. Because a lot of people, they feel the energy when they practice with some people, but then when they're on their own, they can't do it. And they don't know what's going on, what's happening. So yeah, I really like to activate their psychic skills and sort of like get them to the point where they can actually do it themselves and they know what is happening. And that's just 1, 2, 3 sessions. And if you do it on the land where they already live, or they close by certain areas, certain landmarks have stronger energy, and obviously your energy field is connected to that already, so it's even easier to activate your psychic skills there.
You bring up something very valuable and important there, and that is that you can learn these things in the workshop, and I've heard other teachers talk about this too, and I've had this experience somewhat myself as a teacher, is that depending on what you're teaching, some people are going to leave the situation, and then there's a kind of there's a window of time that they're still soaking in the residual kind of hangover of the experience. Like you're still swimming in the soup, so to speak, and you can take advantage of that. You got a window, but it does decay over time if you don't keep doing it.
That's
and
true.
that's something that I've come across studying Reiki is that they would go to the dojo and hang out with the teacher 2 or 3, 4 times a week, because the attunement process was literally sitting with it, and he already had the attainment, and you were tuning yourself to this person.
Yes.
And so this kind of one-off workshop thing that sort of gets pumped nowadays. I'm sorry, I'm not rapping on Reiki.
I literally get pumped out. I know, just like everybody's a Reiki practitioner these days.
This is it, right? And so there is this thing where people are they teaching them to take ownership of it, because that in a group environment, when you've got that sort of what is it called, the law of resonance, when you've got a bunch of people all there together, you have an amplified experience. There's more of the stuff to perceive and take hold of. It's more potent and more prevalent, and you can just go, oh wow, cool, man, okay, I've got it. But it's like the kid that would come to me back in the day for guitar lessons. It's all cool to hang out with Phil for half an hour, but if you don't practice when you're at home, then you're just gonna, you're not going to achieve, and you're not going to grow as such, because you're not taking the thing and then assimilating it or absorbing it into your own sort of ownership. So that was.
Sorry.
No, go.
Well, what I find, it's not only the practice, because I think it's sort of like almost like a vicious cycle. People, they can't feel the energy, and they're not getting the results they have in class, so they're less motivated to practice. And but it's I didn't mean to be disrespectful about the Reiki. I started with Reiki as well.
Oh no, it's fine, mate. Totally.
Sorry about that. But what I find, like when the person learns how to tune to the energy, to see it. So for example, what we do in our workshops, when I do the healings, for example, I bring, say, one deity, one spirit guide in, because I usually like to start with their spirit guide, because they're already familiar with that. And obviously there is that contract there anyway, and then just getting them to feel them, so that the guy touches them on their head or touches them on their shoulder, and they learn to tune to it, and then bring another energy in, and then just sort of like with every single person, making them aware of what's happening. Hey, like, Michael, on your left knee, can you feel energy happening there? Jimmy, can you feel like on your heart they're working there? Chris, can you feel the fire coming into your spine? And that way they're learning to tune to what's actually going on. And that sort of like enhances their psychic abilities, but also gives them more confidence of like, what's going on? I actually can feel this now. And that way, they just basically,
setting up that immersive experience so that it's very tangible, right? So that some people need a longer soak in it too, don't they? And that's why you have like a good in-depth workshops that as you run them. So sorry, Michael, carry on.
No, that's fine. Exactly what you're going to say there, Phil, is we want, the physical experience, so they're enhancing, that they get to feel each other's energy fields, or they can feel not just like the heat or the cold, but like, energies in the solar plexus, or, gut feeling. And once again, not just grabbing that, but it's like you said before, there are people that just go to a workshop and they're more of a fan, whereas you've got to learn to love it, or be the lover of playing guitar, or be the singer, and you've got to have a passion. You want to access, it's one of the most underwritten aspects of the water element, that love, that passion that keeps you alive. And we basically enhance that. They really get a feeling of that magnetism, and they attract more and more and more, so that they become the super lover of life, as it were.
But also you have to consider, obviously at the moment I'm working on my book, so I do a bit of research, and there's so much trauma there from, like the witch hunts. Like people think they happened in Europe, but if you think like it started, around the 1200th century.
About 12, yes. Yeah. And the last hangings were only about to the 19th century.
Yeah. So, like the law that you could not be, prosecuted for witchcraft in England, they stopped it in 1952, 1954. that's like 70 odd years ago. That's not so long. Till then, you still could be prosecuted if you were a midwife, because that was witchcraft. If you were a naturopath, you would be prosecuted. If you were doing any kind of, working with herbs, just like making a cup of tea with, herbs from the garden, you would be prosecuted as witchcraft. If you would work as a astronomer with, stars, so there's just so much trauma there over centuries that's still in people's mind, and that's sort of like they're like, oh, how safe is this to go into that area?
Oh yeah.
And then there's a lot of work to just sort of like clear that out.
Yeah, that's and also the way that some of these people were killed as well was highly traumatizing, and that can from what I understand is that if you have a really horrible death, it might take you longer to come back down because you've got to work through some stuff on other planes before you're ready to come back here. And so that's one way. I often wonder about the certain groups that employed those methods, if they already knew that and they were like, well, we don't want this fella coming back too soon, so we want to make sure he spends that extra time because he's a market disruptor to our job security sort of model here.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. We want to earn millions. We want to milk all these souls, which is what they're doing. They milk the souls for cycles and lifetimes. And like the demons are up and running very, very powerful, and they're up at the high end of institutions. They literally feed on it and all those things. That's how it works when you understand it. No matter how powerful that corporate, when they're making billions of dollars, they're actually sort of milking the souls. It's not about being negative about making or assessing capital or money. It's just understanding the corporations. They feed on the pain and death of others. That's what the word corpse means. So it's control, and one must learn to be free. It can work with the system and the society and any institution, but you've got to understand who's running it and how they're controlled. And obviously massive religions feed off that. There's over 17 religions have over 1 million followers, and it's not knocking the religion. I'm sure it had some really good values at the beginning, but you can get two aspects of, say, Christianity. If you go back to the Gnostic Christians, they're completely different to like for example, a new, a fanatical, born again Christian or something that's just, they're just hammering these silly things out of the New Testament. Whereas a Gnostic Christian is the absolute opposite. They would be seen as a heretic because they're using the ancient knowledge and everything, which was obviously given out of the ancient temples and teachings, where the Mary Magdalene priestesses and that came from, that they were training in Luxor and Karnak, of that, the worshipping the crystalline structure of the body, the Christos, or the Christos, which is the sacred fluids of the body. And there's a lot of stuff integrated and hidden in there, and that's where the real essence of any cultural religion. I'm sure if you go right back, same when you get these different practicing Buddhists and Hindus and things like this, some have got this really awesome core, and the others, well, they're only grabbing the surface because it's, I wouldn't say fashionable, but it suits them at that time, but they're not learning to go deeper. Whereas it's the same with this work. You want to go deep and explore oneself, not as a challenge, and do it for your own good, for your own sake, and look at different philosophies and things and get through your own trauma. It's a big thing. People have contracts and things, like you said, when we look back at this destruction that's taking place on the planet. You've got to be able to be strong enough to sort of stand as a star person, a star being, a star man, and be that solar being that you're connected to. Then you can really radiate. And anything that they throw at you, it'll just push back. It has to. Yeah.
I think too that, we're in times right now where we get to opportunities to exercise those, explore those capacities within us and find out, find the extents of our courage and our capacities for things that we find wrong or challenging in a way that learning to stand up, and there's an empowerment that comes from that, because obviously the physical world, this earth school, offers some pretty rugged lessons.
Yes.
And but I found that this view, I came across it quite a few years ago, of like, there's value, like finding value in the crap going on in your life, and like seeking to discover the usefulness of challenging situations. And I heard one chap talk about it, just think about everything in life as a quest. And
Yes.
it kind of, just this kind of reframing it too. And I think too that, with I think the way that Hollywood and that has depicted sort of magic and the occult and that, and generally a dark and negative sense,
Mhm.
what it does though is that, it shows that there's a history of worldview that encompasses reincarnation outside of Eastern systems and the
Yes.
Western systems.
Yes.
And so what that does is, as soon as if you can find little remnants of reincarnation mentioned in the like the Bible and that, like Jesus apparently was an incarnation of Elijah or something, if I'm correct, right? It was something of this mentioned. And when you embrace a worldview that incorporates reincarnation, takes a bit of the pressure off. You suddenly you haven't got 80 years or 90 years and you got to pack it all in, like, oh man, I've got to get busy, right? And you don't have a chance to sit down and meditate and smell the roses and sit under a tree. The pressure's on, man. Come on, God's watching. You better get busy, man.
Why wasn't this done yesterday? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Not a week ago.
Yeah.
It's true. Reincarnation and resurrection, surviving death with your mind. You can take your thoughts through with you, which is part of the philosopher's stone of alchemy, because you've actually attained the secretions through your own secretions, your own secrets, the knowledge of the knowledge. And when understanding or using this is what's actually going on in a lot of the papyruses in Egypt, when you see Anubis there or Thoth or any of these beings. And there's about another 15 or 17 odd religions that they're doing the same thing. You just have a look at it in the temples. That's why it's so good to sort of meditate, in whether it be temples or the big cathedrals, because they're actual healing centers. The churches didn't really build them. They build horrible structures today, whereas opposed to those massive stone buildings, they're cathedral. It's an energizing space. Same with the temple. You've got it in your body as well. It's here, and it's all going on, in your own self, and it's a reflection of any of these places outside you, and overcoming, I suppose, the challenges of thinking, well, I'm the spirit operating this physical body. I've got my soul, which can move into alternative universes and planes as well. And it is on this plane for a reason. However, I'm a multidimensional being. I can access other systems through the stars, the stargates. People are going to start waking up that this planet is literally like what you're saying before. Hollywood has to tell the truth. They do it through movies and illusions. And what you think is the news is basically the illusion of pain and suffering and everything. Whereas you invert it, it's actually hidden in that way through what we call, fantasy that becomes the reality, and vice versa. And there's a lot more into it, because this is another area that people don't tend to sort of put together. It's like you can go beyond the corpus of one body of work, and there is these universal truths that stand above everything. And even the most powerful negative beings, they still have to tell you what they're doing. And they have to tell you what they're doing. Hence why the end of basically every movie, the bad guy goes and tells exactly what you're doing to the hero, and then they hand out getting out of the situation they're in, and then they defeat the bad guy, as it were. That's a normal formula in most TVs and miniseries and things like that. So once you understand what's being told to you, because the negatives can control a being's soul, because people hand over their power to this institute. Oh, it's right. It's so powerful. Look at that. Look at what they're doing. And then until they wake up, realize, oh my God, the power's in me. I have to become who I'm meant to be. Otherwise they hand and they're looking for everything outside themselves. And that's relevant to a way, because we build, when we teach, we build the energy outside as well as inside. So you've got this very powerful energy field, and you connect to, like empath with animals or star systems, depending what you want to connect with. You've got that system open, which is of course Hermetics, communication, all levels, all planes, dimensions.
That was great, man. Thank you. Yeah, and
Yeah,
this is
hey?
I know. That's,
We're having fun. It's a coffee talk. I've
Yeah,
run
it's
out of coffee.
cheers, everyone. Hey, I just want to say thanks to everyone in the chat and everyone that's joining and watching. And we've got a few questions here, and we'll get to those in a sec. But if you've got a question,
Quest
please.
Ions. Quest Ion.
Quest Ion.
Yeah.
Right.
When you know what those letters and words mean.
So please enter your Quest Ion into the chatteroo. And sorry, I'm getting silly now. But yeah, please. And like I said,
put my feet up.
yeah. This is it. This is it. You know, we're not stiffs here. We're cool. No. We're street. We're hip. So I think this is it too, because we got a lot. Yeah, that's it. And this guy's a surfer too, right? It's funny actually. I think
weather. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I'm interrupting. Stop talking while I'm interrupting.
Yeah.
With the surfing, anything connected with external sports like that, you have to learn the weather. I had to learn charts and low pressure systems, high pressure systems, millibars, troughs coming over, and you're learning about air, which is one of the most challenging of the elements, at times. But also, you're seeing a low pressure system. Manuela sent me a video the other day of a massive storm cell coming over. It looks like a spaceship, literally, I'm very suspicious that in many of the ancient craft that they use as a cloaking kind of device. But when you have that, you have the elements. It's that storm, and storm lightning definitely connects a lot to the etheric and the akashic. And, once again, but you learn to read the weather. So there's also, you're looking at the beach for rips and scaries, and also if there's a lot of weed and things like this out, or you learn. We would get whales. We just were watching some yesterday. So you're dynamically connecting with nature. Plus you can empath with these animals, but also you're reading the turbulent waters, plus also the better way for that dynamic to ride that wave, or that collapsing fire spiral, if you look at it that way. And then there's this beautiful aspect of you power through the wave, particularly early in the morning, you get this gold. So you're seeing the liquid or the water element in different colors. You see these golds and blues and greens, and then you can see these dirty, horrible sort of colors when it's going through churning up or rebalancing or recalibrating. And you get to see the wealth of knowledge and truth in weather, which would be a way that the shamans, the ancient shamans or witch doctors, or even the druid priestesses and priests, they're working with nature. They start to understand bird patterns and movements. When you're working with that, your level of magnetism and electricity start to really develop. And this is beyond normal. Many of the great teachers talk about this, but it's going beyond the reading about it in a book. You're actually dynamically living in it, and you're, that fresh air, that air, you've got a lot of ions coming off that ocean, as well.
Well, you also have, what did they say, 92 minerals in the salt water in the ocean.
You're in a sea of health.
So 20 minutes in there replenishes your body, cleanses your energy system.
Yeah, you're regenerating, rejuvenating, and renourishing, and you just wash it all through you. People are looking for, they're going to buy products from Monsanto, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, things like that. No knocking those things. I'm a serious threat to that massive multi-trillion-dollar industry. Yeah, as I say, people are going to be drawn to that. Particularly you walk on the beach, the sand. If you look at sand, different types of sand, particularly the sand we have here, it looks like a treasure chest. So you're grounding the soles of your feet, you're earthing out, you're cleansing dynamically on so many levels and so many planes. Most older people retire by the ocean. Plus we've got eagles and osprey here. You watch them as dynamics, the way they move. You're getting to see, the wings of these beings. And if you do soul swapping, a lot of people don't do that. They don't connect with the animals with it. They swap soul, like a lot of the different ancient tribes, and you can connect. You see, man, you should see through the eyes of an eagle or an osprey. That's a different dynamic. But it opens you up because you're connecting, through their astral being, and they say, would you like to walk in my body? I'll walk at yours, fly. So you're connecting richer. And same with, the dolphins and things. They move at so many cycles. You can connect to them.
I think too, this highlights another value of exploring the world of developing sense capacities. And so if we bring this back to Hermetics and about how we can essentially take our mental body and we can We can explore its various functionalities. And one of those things is that you can send it over there, and it can occupy a thing, and it can take the controls of a thing, and you get the consent of a willing animal, and you say, hey man, I want to see what life's like through your eyes. And it's quite interesting. And people who are listening to this might be like, that's a bridge too far. And it's like,
exactly. This work is not for you. Go back.
But like you said at the beginning of the conversation, you kind of gotta, if you're going to buy the ticket, you got to take the ride, and you got to give it some time. And I think that, for me, I came across, say, Mark Rasmus's work with the Qigong and with the trees. And then I found a whole new bunch of ways, just that he gave me an entry point into exploring that, because I've hung out with trees and that. But once I started doing the tree Qigong and had a methodology of like connecting with it, and then I found all these other ways of doing these things too. It's like, oh man, we've got a whole bunch of old trees in my village. And, this is an old part of town that I live in. And there's a lot of my own family history here and that. And there's local spirits. I say that because I've met them. I didn't know them before, but they're there. They're absolutely there. There's a lot of animals as well. Like there's a lot of deceased cats and dogs that want to hang out. And as soon as you start doing these practices, I get the fear, at some point, they know that they know that you can see or that you can. And so they start wanting to say hi, but yeah, that thing about mental transference into things and exploring that, I think some people will be surprised if they gave it an honest go for a bit.
Yes.
If but you've got to be open to it. If you go in there going, oh, I'm doing this to prove that it's a load of crap, forget about it. You're not going to get anywhere. And like you said, this spans a lot of different cultures. I was talking to this. I picked up a book the other day called Urban Shaman, and it's about Hawaiian shamanism, but it also talks about Māori and Polynesians and that as well.
Yes.
And, that word shaman, I believe, is Siberian, and it's a catch-all word that academics use to talk about basically witch doctors and, the tribe's cunning man or person or woman, herb woman, whatever. And they have these catch-all terms. But this is just like the elements are a global phenomena, so is the existence of these people that were in the villages that had these capacities and capabilities. And they were at schools. And if they didn't have a local school, they would get taken to the invisible schools or the invisible universities and things like this. But the good thing is that you don't have to wait to get the special tap on the shoulder. You're the chosen one. You can actually get the materials and actually learn the stuff now. And, and I think this is so cool is because it's adding, it's taking the power back for the individual, whereas before you had to go through the middleman, and that's still a thing. And, it's very empowering when you go, wow, there's actually something going on here. Because if your curiosity gets piqued and you carry on exploring, I got to say, sometimes once you go a certain way, it's very hard to, there's a point of no return because the interest just grabs you, and that's you, man. That's what happened to me. I can't help it. It's just life now. So
that's it. Exactly. Well spoken, young Jedi.
Hey, I've got some questions here. Would you guys like to have a look at some questions from the audience?
Yeah, sure.
And so please, I'm just going to throw some things up. So let's see here. We've got a few people in there. Welcome everybody. Thank you everyone for joining us in the chat. I'm here with Michael and Manuela from MMHermeticmastery.com. Please go check out their amazing website. Look at that. Isn't that a beautiful image? Let's bring up a couple of things here. So yes, in New Zealand, we actually have a public holiday called Matariki, which is based on the Pleiades. It's a Māori holiday. They celebrate that star system as well. And so once again, we see these commonalities amongst different traditions. Now, a question from Angelo Rossini. Can you please tell us about working with elemental spirits, like how they can help you in your magic practice, etc.?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to do this one, or I'll do it?
I don't
know. Okay.
Yeah.
Just before you're speaking about tree spirits, all right? So there's a very, very strong connection with the ancient, like what we call the Elvish or the Elfame, or these races. And if you want to go back in the history of that, there are many different books about how they're, through Europe and things. So we're just doing the air element, all right? And these beings are interdimensional. If you work with them and you learn their respect, they will give you knowledge like you wouldn't believe. You'll be able to connect with them. Within the earthen realms, the gnomes, they'll give you the knowledge of the stones and things like this, so you can just sort of connect and communicate with stones, because they're a crystalline structure. They're a living crystal. They're intelligence, like all the different living creatures. Each of the different elemental spirits, for example, if you work a lot with the fire drakes and the dragons of the fire realm, I'm going to say all the dragons are of different elementals, but let's say the fire drakes, you'll get to learn the knowledge of advanced beings that have existed in these planes and dimensions. They will give you knowledge if you've earned the street cred. It's not just about giving the knowledge, but actually how to work it. There are so many different areas of this. Same with the water element. The amount of time I've nearly, been killed or drowned or whatever, and I've been saved by, different beings, because, you're connected to the liquid realms. But also in your practice, for example, you're connecting to the liquid. And this is very important, Angelo. You have blood and you have perspiration. You have all these different liquids in your body. And if you're connecting to them, you understand the different layers of these fluids and the different consistency and viscosity. And that is another thing that these beings will share with you, is like, you're running all this in you. And you're not just like, most people don't understand that their body is unconscious, yet it's doing over, I don't know, tens of thousands of different processes in a minute. Yet when you get super conscious, you start to run, connected to that. But the thing is, you've sort of got to connect to the elements first outside yourself. And these certain beings, they just exist outside our visible light spectrum. People say, well, how come science has found it plenty of times? There's a lot of scientists. There's no evidence. There's plenty of evidence. There's just no advertising for it, because, dumb people are worth billions of dollars to other people. So as if you wake up, you start to connect massively, and you'll have these connections. And there are so many different types of elemental beings. It's elementary, which is what they should be learning in their elementary practices and schooling and colleges. You will advance your connection on so many levels. It is beyond the scope of what I can actually say at this time. But you've got to learn to trust, and you connect and deeply hold it within you. And it's a love. It's a passion that you have for it. Those beings will help you advance in so many ways. They'll teach you things so far beyond the scope. You won't be able to even talk to a lot of people about it. Hence why people like to talk to us, because they have all these incredible experiences, and they're not able to talk to a lot of people, or express themselves, like how many things are going on with them. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, wonderful. You bring up a great point there, and I say this to people who come to me as well and want to talk. There's people having experiences out there, and they're either excited or they may even be concerned, and they want someone to talk to. Now, if you go and talk to the wrong person and make yourself vulnerable and open up, that can be a terrible hindrance to your practice, and it can cause problems and trust issues and things like that about moving forward. And this is a thing that can be embraced, but like we've talked about, there has been past traumas, and narrow worldviews have formed around societies as well. And so some of the stuff is just taboo, but things are, I think, we're in a good time now, and you can reach out to people. But people having experiences, it's good to talk to other people that are having experiences as well that you can relate to. And now I've got another question here, and here we go. So this one's from Heather, who lives in the United States. I've been connecting with lizards outside. They stop and look at me, and I send telepathic love and joy, and then I see an etheric ripple emanate from them like concentric circles outwards. And she's asking, is that normal? I guess that,
I'm not laughing for the wrong reasons. Yeah, forget normal. Normal is norm. Who wants normal? You will connect with different animals, and particularly lizards and reptiles, because they are very advanced. And trust me, the dragons, there's a massive cosmic battle going on, and it has been going on for thousands of years. And these beings are very, very powerful, particularly reptiles, all right, and particularly the lizards. And there's a lot to get into about this. You will connect with them. They're highly empathic. And there are certain races of them that just, you know, they live for thousands of years, and you'll get right back to the ancient dragon queens. This is pre-Adamic times. And many of the different cultures have a very strong connection to these dragons. You'll have a look at any of the creation myths from Babylon to China to Lao. You go and you have this, and the connection to lizards is phenomenal, right? It's part of us. Remember, we have the reptile mind, reptilian brain, and we have bird brain. So there's a very, very strong connection. You have a look at these gods and goddesses around the world, and you'll see them dragon or lizard-headed or bird, avian-headed, right? So have a look at that, and also within your own pineal. This is where you bring both those cultures or ancient aspects together. It's one of the most advanced areas of this cosmic connection. Those beings, obviously, you know, we have like, you know, the smaller versions of the lizards, but there are certain planets in the cosmos, instead of plugging in like the adapa or the, you know, the ape or the hominid, they're plugged into a lizard, and they become very, very advanced reptilian beings.
And also in relationship to, you know, the concentric circles, because, you know, everybody, she probably sees, you know, when you start seeing energy, a lot of people start seeing, you know, sort of like the etheric ripples or bubbles or like that shimmer, but you just start to see energy fields like the aura. You know, you have the electromagnetic field, the biomagnetic field around you, and every living being has, you know, their energy field around you. And if you go into a certain frequency, so she's saying, you know, you send love and joy, so you're in the frequency of love and joy, and when you meet that being, they resonate at that frequency and almost like send that frequency out again. And every animal will literally do this depending on what situation, and it happens to some extent with humans as well. You know, if you approach a person like in a nice, respectful way, you usually get approached in a nice, respectful way back. If you approach them with like, you know, angry, upset, you know, that's what you're getting on the visible spectrum. But yeah, you're just learning to see energy, basically.
Yeah, very much. The lizard has like that shimmer energy about it. If you look underneath a lizard's tummy, they have those light sort of scars. It's almost like a rainbow body underneath. And once again, in working with different dimensions and planes, there's almost like a shimmer and concentric circles or spheres or even torus fields. It pulses in wave pulses, like, you know, dropping the stone in the pond, proverbially spoken about in so many different cultures, like rings and circles. Remember, there's that empathic, telepathic communication. Empathic more from like the heart, the liquid realms, telepathic more to the air waves, liquid waves. But he who rules the waves has a connection, which is basically what Hermetics is about. So you will have strong connection with animals and their deeper sense of knowledge. And then once again, any being that's on this planet, there's a hierarchy in the deeper constellations of space where there's an advanced version of them, very advanced.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. And Heather, thank you so much for sharing that. We've got another question from Phil Storm here. Great name, that Phil. He's got 2 L's like me. I only use one though, because, you know, it's as we say in New Zealand, it saves ink. Just use one. Now, so the question is, and I'll just throw this one out there. What happened to Atlantis? And you know, there's obviously you know, Graham Hancock is on Netflix at the moment. He's got a new series coming out soon. I can't remember the name of it. Apocalypse. I can't remember it. But basically, it's becoming a bit more mainstream, this conversation of a you know, of a lost civilization, and not just a centralized one on an island, but we're talking about a global civilization in some respects too. And you know, obviously he's got Keanu Reeves coming onto this TV show too, so we're getting a bit of
I saw the photo of the two of them. Yeah.
So we're getting a bit of star power with this kind of, and you know, we've got Göbekli Tepe, and then we've got Gunung Padang, which are like making people go, and this is mainstream people too, going, our technology is telling us that
basically, your history's been manipulated. His story. So you've got this controversial aspect of these different gods that are fighting for like it's a turf war. But the original ones, there's those that want to work with us, like those angelic races, and those that feed on the negative energy, and they feed on terror and fear and confusion. That's why traffic jams that are set up where they can just feed off that negative energy, and people lost, they're watching the TV or they're watching the violence, and they're caught up in that. So these beings just access those lower chakras and just suck the astral life force, and people are always tired or whatever. So getting back to Atlantis, there are many, many different cultures. There's Nan Madol. Actually, Graham Hancock went to Nan Madol, which is this incredible island just south of, in between the Philippines and Japan, I believe. And it's like laid out on these massive hexagonal basalt, stone, bigger and larger than the pyramid complexes. And then you've got Hyperborea. There's different philosophies and studies on Atlantis. We're looking at it being in the Azores and in between, let's say off the coast of Spain, Canary Islands and things like this, between the, obviously North American continent, Europe and Africa. The others were thinking there was another older culture where, the Antarctic continent was flash frozen. It's under 200 feet of ice, and you wouldn't believe the stuff that's going on there. To get into the details of Atlantis, you're going back to a lot of root races pre-Adamic. There's a connection with the Titans there, also the Arcturians and some of the Palladians, and it's a really, really big area to get into. I just can't give you a 5-minute answer on that. However, it was disrupted. Obviously Virgil spoke about it in his books, and many the great teachers of Socrates and Plato, and that they learned under Cylon. And he was of that, and they were saying about Atlantis, how advanced it was. Once again, crystalline cities. But you've got a lot of this actually not so far back, only going back a few centuries. There's a lot of ancient cultures that have been written off by the mainstream. So you don't want just history, you want to get the heritage of the people, and you want to get the soul of the people rather than reading it. 90% of the history books they're all fabricated. A lot of it was rewritten after the Second World War by the Rockefellers. They purchased the history. So, obviously they were making the most money out of those wars because they feed on, obviously selling weapons, to obliterate cultures, and they feed off that. So when you understand, they go back to Egypt, they're the Raka pharaohs or the Rakim. And when you go, and it is a really big area to get into because there's a battle that they feed on the negative side of things, whereas we try to ascend to the positive. And that's what happened with Atlantis. There's a battle between the negative and the positive there. And obviously they shifted it and, obviously tilted, there were some terrible things that took place on the planet. We've had some massive floods, if you want to get in a mud flood, and, the Tartarians, the Tartarian Empire, these ancient stone buildings that you see in all these cultures, and no one builds anything like them these days. There's massive cathedrals and there's massive dome buildings, or all these capital buildings. Anyway, more to get into that again.
No, it's so interesting because there's, and I think too that feeding our sense of wonder with available information, because I've got to say that like I said earlier, once you start going down this track, it's very hard to turn back, and the path does need nourishment from various different aspects, in my view. Partially practice of hanging out, finding your tribe, going to sacred places, getting out in nature, and this journey back to discovering this deep aspect of ourselves before it got lumped with all of this externally sourced baggage, I guess you could call it.
Yes.
Parents, institutions, movies, all of this. This is the way it is, and this is how you should think. And you bring up a good point there because about the way information is managed on this planet. And there's a great, it's about, in my view, there are, how does it go? Money is for poor people. When you control the money printing machines, you don't need money anymore. It's more a control thing. And one thing you do to control is to control the flow of information and how it appears. And so if you've got access to basically determine, what gets printed and what doesn't, look at these huge publishing houses and how easy it is to just change things. And we're seeing that now with with digital media, you could be reading a famous book, 5 years ago on your Amazon Kindle device, and then you go to read it again, and all the characters have been changed, for one reason or another.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a real thing, people. And so, like, there's nothing, I tell you what, hard copies, physical media, getting your favorite songs, keep those CDs and those tapes and those hardcover books and things.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because even if you go to the Akashic records, you'll see, if you go into those places, you'll see, they've got everything, USBs and massive ancient, and some of the books are huge, they're gargantuan, like giants read them, sort of thing. And some of the stuff got, like, they'll have the digital names, and any of the hard copy, everything from cassettes to videotapes to DVDs to, like, streaming, everything is there, and it's like a hard copy. You can access it through holographic devices, anything. That's the Akashic records. If you have the strength and the energy to move into those realms and dimensions and stay there and do some serious research, not just about your own life and things, but that way you can download the knowledge you need, or balance your trauma, or remove blood contracts from your family line that may be there, that may be stopping you access this power, this energy, this knowledge of your own internal, star law and truth.
Oh, wonderful. Now we've got another question here. We piqued somebody's interest here. Another question from Phil. Beings feed off negative emotions is something very interesting. Can you please expand on this?
And it's been the way of this planet. Yeah, basically, if you go back to the Jehovah sorry, I didn't finish the question. Okay,
that's all right. There's a two parts to the question. So that's expanding on negative emotions and as a food source. And could you also touch on the side effects someone might experience if they have that? If they become targeted by a being who's like, "Oh, you're a food source. I'm going to hang out here because I'm basically got a lunch ticket."
Yeah, absolutely. You just see it with groups, or any particular group where people just feed off the negative. You'll see it in society, or you're working, and there'll be some character that's got a really strong ego, and he's just attracting, like, people, and just bosses and dominates, like I suppose like a negative gang or something along that line, or a really powerful, like a elite lobby of people that are very much against. They must have the control. So they keep people in misery or negative emotions. Once it's not for people that are only waking up to this. It would help, but you've got to understand how they feed off the negative energy. Like you feed off happiness and joy and freedom and liberty and all these things. It elates you. It's more about the emotions that you're going to be, energized on, because when you go into other planes and dimensions, you're not going to be feeding off food sources that are like food here. It's a different frequency. It's a different energy source. And there are beings that feed on negative energy. But if you go there, they're generally called demons, and dark or undead beings, because they feed on decaying energy. It's just like in this world, it's so simple. Like, there are beings or energy, there are living creatures that break down negative things. They just feed, like a carcass, there'll be maggots and flies, and they'll break that down, or there'll be carrion eaters of birds to a certain degree, and then the next ones take over.
There's also different kinds of levels, like you have a big scale of negative emotions as well, from, like, just feeling a bit off to, like, really being, like, depressed. But you also have, a big scale of sort of like negative beings, from, like, just little negative beings to really intense ones, so to say. And I always say, as you go through life, you pick up sort of like those little suckers literally everywhere. Because you might unconsciously make a contract saying, "Oh, I wish somebody could help me with this," or "I wish I could help this person," or I could do with some help here," or you really want to get something done, or you got into a meditation and you didn't have your protection around properly, so you invited somebody, or you went to like just a park and somebody's hanging around there, or cemetery, or all those other spiritual places. People go, "Oh, I go to Machu Picchu and I get enlightened." Well, yeah, you probably picked up like 10 entities that feed off you now. So but what you notice is, because they feed on your energy, so you will feel easier or more easily drained and just tired. You will feel more like fog in your head, that you don't have the clarity, even like losing sort of like the sense of like, thrive and motivation, or I don't even know what I want anymore, or, what my purpose is, what my passion is, sort of like losing that sense of belonging as well. And just sort of like sometimes also feeling just like heavy and not feeling like you want to get out of bed, that sort of feeling. So, and if that has changed, say after the meditation, then okay, I picked that one up at a meditation. Or if that has changed after you've been to the shopping center, then you picked something up at the shopping center. And eventually it can also physically manifest in your body, that your organs get sick or they shut down. You start with your digestion, other things. That there's literally a wide variety of things, and that's where where in our courses we do the healings as well, to really sort of like clear the people out, cleanse that stuff, but also in the protection workshop teach you how to protect you and what to do and what to watch out for, and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we don't hold back. We talk about the positive beings and the negative beings, the elemental beings and the neutral beings, but people need to know about negative beings and what they feed on. People will have an obsession. Let's say this person's like he's cruel by his nature, and the more he's obsessed with that cruelty and hurting as many people as he can, like a narcissist or something along those lines, it attracts in the realms actually other beings that are attracted to that and they want to feed. So they'll just so the obsession becomes a possession. So they start exercising it. That being will feed off that. And then it's also important for people to know the types of negative beings that are out there. And they're just clueless. Most people are just, it's God and, there's a few elementals, or maybe there's just Jesus and a few angels, and that's it. It's not that way at all. On earth,
on the cloud,
yes, on earth as it is in heaven. And people think there's either heaven and hell. Like, I could name 30 different planes, from Tartarus, to Pandemonium, to Limbo, to, the paradises, or the heavens, or any Olympus. Those realms are real, like the Atlantean realms. You can just access and tap back into that if you want to go to that. Plus all the spheres of the sun or spheres of the planets. It's just the right song or the right singing energy frequency to move into those planes. But there are negative planes as well, and there's like incredibly organized levels of the legions of the negative planes as well that feed. But let's not get into that. But if that explains a little bit about those beings, they're out there, and like in this world, in this society, there are a lot of different beings, that dragons and witches and demons all exist, and they're all hiding behind human faces. That may help.
And I think too that the nature of, like, if I just use a really sort of common example of, like, I watched when I was looking at Netflix years ago, I watched it decline into very dark territory. And and I look at some of the family movie TV shows, like the Marvel superhero movies and things, and when that shifted into television streaming, it started to get darker. It wasn't but it still carries the Marvel superhero badge, so parents probably think, oh, it's okay, it's good old Marvel, and it's like, nah, man, you want to watch this before you let your kids sit in front of it, kind of thing, because and I think too that when you have these abruptly shocking moments that catch you off guard, it takes your balance away, and so things can slip in through the gap as well. And this is why having like it's going for a walk up into the village, up to the supermarket, up to the shopping center, up to the large event. We've got a big event here today. We've got a hot rod convention type thing happening up the road. It's pretty amazing. But you go up there, and it's it is what it is, and then you come back and you're like, I need to have a scrub and a scrape, my eyes, but it's literally like that now, once you start building up sensitivity. Hey,
you become so aware on so many levels, and certain things aren't as great as they used to be, or just accept them for what they are, and they're awesome, but you can only stay in certain zones for a certain amount of time because of whatever.
Okay, well, I'm going to see. Can I keep you guys for another 10 minutes, and then we'll sign off? Is that cool? Can we do another 10?
So many areas. It was a really good question. You've asked some powerful questions, as Phil Storm has, because there's so much to get into in that. But once again, I recommend doing this, the courses for that reason. So
perfect. That's right. And then obviously, you're supporting the teachers, and you get to ask some questions directly. So I've got one more here. And this one was listed as a question early on, and then we'll cap it off, and we'll give you guys a big plug because you guys have got heaps coming on. We want you to be out there. I'm scrolling through it. I'm trying to find out where the question is now. Here it is. Here now. This I will just put it out there, and then we'll leave it there. The Tree of Life, or Yggdrasil, which I believe is Norse mythology.
Yes, that's right.
I'm not sure. He says, does this work start in the spine posture, then extend up and down like a vertical physical energy, like an elevator, or is it more mental astral? And I'm not sure how to make sense of that, but I'll just throw it at you guys and see if you can.
I think what he is referring, Will, to is the tree of life is not like a tree, not like that you have the trunk in your body and then, the leaves and the branches up there and the roots going down. It's, I don't know how to even explain it without elaborating on for.
Do you want me to take it? I love this. Exactly. There's always a dragon involved. Exactly. Just take Revelations into the Bible. The tree of life is actually basically your own being, but it's also connected to the world because you're actually building a universe. Because you have a microcosm, then you've got 70 trillion souls, and they're still going to be working like planets and stars because as above, so below, as without, so within. And with the Norse and everything, you have the great chaos, or the Dante's Inferno, whichever way you want to look at it, you're going to go into this underworld, but you got to look at it. And you can see at the base of the spine because this is your reproductive, and it's a very powerful area. It's a very Scorpio kind of energy. And you can see it as the Kundalini, rising and the two serpents dancing, or the DNA, whichever way you want to stack it. It does have that effect, but it is going to go into your mental and astral. It can't not, because it's simultaneously. It's happening in your body. People look at this start, exactly what came first, the chicken or the egg. Well, they've always existed. Once you know that, you're outside the time loop, which is only a 4D concept. You're moving into fifth and sixth. And the thing is, it's simultaneous. Your mind's going to think it anyway, and you're going to feel it. So your astral, you're already going to be simultaneously in the mental and the astral, even if you're starting at, the base of the spine and that world tree. The tree of life is going to start somewhere. And it usually starts with Earth, which is Malkuth, which is the principal plane of this world. And there's 4 dimensions to it, in that 10th Sephiroth. So it gives you the key. It's like, it's happening now. I'm in it. And it grows through you. I mean, if you stripped away the physical body and you look at your nerve system and your bloodstream and your respiratory, you're like a friggin' ET. You're a friggin' monster. But the thing is, look at it. It's happening. It's pulsing. It's growing through you. You're running the whole thing. But it's a hard concept for many people to work with. They'll start with, let's say, Initiation of Hermetics. It's a very hard, challenging book. It's not very well written in some areas. It's because hang on, I can't grab the concept because it seems to contradict as I go further through it. Whereas like you just take it and think, oh, it's in me anyway. I've got it. All right. I'll look at the way this is written. What's really being said is be very, very careful. You've got a lot of power, a lot of energy in your being. And the tree is the key to your own self, because you're running all these fluids, like the vital fluid, to the brain, photosynthesis through the leaves. And then you've got the underworld where the roots are going to find minerals, and they're working in these worlds of breakdown and decay and everything like that. But in that is the mineral, and it's the truth. It's like you're in these worlds and you've got to find it. You're literally living the movie and, writing the video game simultaneously in your mental and astral. But that's a very good key to the 5th dimension, if that helps. And once again, we have these incredible metaphors and similes through these different ancient cultures. The world tree, once again, is like Atlantis. It's not a 5-minute conversation, and that's why it takes so long to sort of grab the concept. And then you'll have these aha moments, and you're going to need to digest it because it'll blow your mind, or it's just too much because of the old systems that you might be running, where, it's like, no, I can't do it. I mean, there was days when I'd have some incredible aha moments. I'm sure you've all gone through it. Like you're just holding your head like it's cooking. It's like, if that's that, then that's that, then that's that. And that's all running through it. And that world tree, the Fenris wolf and the dragon and the serpent, there's actual so many awesome metaphors in that. It's like you virtually marry your opposite shadow self and you become at one. And it's such a paradox. Anyway, I'll let it be at that.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
You're
right. I mean, these are massively expansive bullet points people are bringing up, but you're giving them threads that they can follow on with. And I think too that, when we're talking about things, concepts, or even physical things, they have representation on all planes in some form or another, don't they? Like there's a physical emanation, an astral emanation, a mental emanation, and an Akashic blueprint, if you call it, their own etheric blueprint, these types of things. And so you have, everything exists on all planes, unless it doesn't have a physical.
Oh, yeah, exactly. There's so many metaphors hidden in it, but I don't want to just use the word metaphors. There's so much truth in the world tree, or even if you look at tree qigong, but that communication, the different types of trees, because the trees sustain us with their different fruits and the different herbs and as well. But even in the most massive trees, we looked at some of these big ancient redwoods. I mean, you literally have anti-gravity going on there because you're literally looking at thousands of tons of sap moving up. And it's not just like the vacuum. If you go into xylophone tissue, there is so many metaphors for your highest awareness of initiation into the deepest knowledge. And it's sitting there in front of you, and it's running the same way as it's running, the bloods and the, obviously the nervous system and the electromagnetism in your own body. It's the same thing. There's a vibrant series of great secrets sitting right there in front of you in these old let's say stories, myths, and legends. And let's face it, I'm going to say it straight out and blatantly brutal like this. Bullshit does not last for thousands of years. So it's got truth. What happened in the news 3 weeks means nothing. Because it's going to happen. There's going to be all these incredible calamities, and it just keeps going and going and going. It's how you deal with it and what you put into it and how you approach it. It's your love, rather than sort of getting dilapidated. Oh, what can I do? What can I do? To this is like, well, just put your love to it. You're getting on a plane and the little girl or the little baby starts crying. Well, use your Kabbalah, use that light blue energy to calm that child and stop all the guys. Why'd you bring a baby on the plane? Just chill that stuff out. That'll show you how much power and energy you've got and how much beauty. And then the child will smile and giggle at you, and they'll just look at you and just like that. It's like, then you're working the magic. And it's a daily thing. Anyway, I'll leave it on that.
Wonderful. Thank you. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much to everyone in the chat. We're going to give you two wonderful people another plug. You've got this incredible website, which has got
phenomenal.
They've done such a wonderful job. The graphics are amazing. There's heaps of information. You've got courses that you can purchase directly from the website. You have a link to, obviously, the Alchemy Pathway to Profound Powers, which was a movie documentary that Michael stars in and you narrate. You have upcoming workshops starting in November, in January, and in February, and also more. There's more. And you're going back to Chiang Mai as well at the end of next year. So
next year we had too much on this year. We had to delay. And it was quite a few students wanted to sort of do the work. A big investment, big challenge. But we're working on the website, and Manuela's done a phenomenal job. We've got an army of energy working out there. Could have done it without her. I was like, oh my gosh, it's just, as I said. So we're working, beautifully, harmoniously as a couple. It's just gorgeous.
I love it. That's great. And you've also got, while we're here, a pretty incredible. Hang on, where are we? I'll share this one here. You've also got this lovely YouTube channel that you're building up here, and you've got a lot of great videos on here too. So this is once again MMHermetic Mastery on YouTube, guys, and there's lots of clips of Michael and Manuela on their various journeys, and I've got to say it's lots of little short clips here with juicy morsels and ways to explore, because I think what it is that, like, you know, you drop a little bit of something and people will go off and explore that too. And so there's long form and short form content on the YouTube channel, people. So you can go there and check it out. Don't forget to check out MMHermeticmastery.com. You guys are also on Facebook, and I've put the links in the YouTube comments below. I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a wonderful pleasure. I'm so grateful. If I get you to stick around for 1 minute after I exit the stream, I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat. And I will see you all again very soon. Blessings to everyone. You've been an incredible crowd, and aren't we blessed to have such wonderful teachers to access? So thank you so much. I'll see you guys again very soon. Sorry. Do you guys have any last words you'd like to share with the audience?
Oh, live long and prosper, of course. Exactly. Trust yourself, learn to trust yourself, and watch your own thoughts and emotions. We're bringing up one area that was Manuela suggested this, and it's about calming your thoughts and getting into a samadhi state. It seems to be overlooked. We go through a lot of, we do a lot of high energy meditation where we talk you into places and realms and zones and building ridiculous amounts of energy in your hands and bodies, as well as the healing. But now we're getting into this samadhi where it's a quiet state as well. So we're working with that. So learn to quiet your mind and watch your thoughts and feelings too, but also be drawn to the things that make you. This is the monad. People don't, this is another area we'll be teaching in, Hermetics Initiation 3, where we get to go deep into our own personality and why we are who we are, unique rather than just being an individual. So learn to trust your thoughts and your feelings. Watch your thoughts and feelings.
Turn up the bullshit filter.
Love it. Yeah, that's good. Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Okay. Well, we'll see you guys all again soon. Thanks for watching the Phil Rice YouTube channel. Please see the links and all the things below to how you can support the channel and the guests and find their stuff. Peace, love, and mung beans, everybody. Have a beautiful day. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye.
Thanks so much.